Hello, today we are super excited to introduce you the game we made over the course of 1.5 months, a game which we called Super Snake, inspired by the old game Snake made in the late 20th century. Besides, that is achieved beyond the MATLAB. Let's see what's the difference between the Super Snake and the old Snake. Okay, here we are in the game, and we can see that it's pretty similar to the old Snake game. Besides that, we have some different items, and you can see that, oh, and here we died. Anyway, here comes the fun part. Let's see how the game is made over the course. We kept the principle of modular programming in mind and went throughout the exploring MATLAB's capability of object-oriented programming. And what can we say? It's easy to use, simple, and gets the job done. Our whole game is based on the MATLAB's implementation of classes. The game itself, the graphics, the snake, the item, the map, and they're all classes that does different things. Such approaching allows us to easily modify the behavior of our game by looking into those classes responding to such behavior. For example, if I need to modify it how the snake grows, I just need to go to the snake class over here, the snake class, and modify the function snake move in the class. To add an item, we need to go to the item class over here. Go add an item ID assigned to your item, then add a case to draw the function to write how to draw your item. Do the same thing to do action function. To write what your item does, your item can change snake speed, spawn other items, give your snake duration effects, and so on. You can even make it to start entirely different game if you'd like.
Aside from the appearance of being a snake game, how we wrote the game is fully original when it comes to its logic, implementation, and the code we wrote. The only not original parts being using MATLAB functions and picture for our items. Let's start with the logic of our program. Let's first look into the snake class. The logic of the snake used full advantage of MATLAB's power to manipulate matrices and vectors. In fact, the whole snake is a n by 2 matrix, which are n x, y values for the positions of each snake's body block. When the snake moves, we generate a new head based on its original head and the direction it is going, then delete the last block in the vector. You might notice there's a variable named noDelete in the class and is accessed in the snake move noDelete. NoDelete specifies the number of moves that the snake moves without deleting its tail block, making it convenient for us to increase its length. Now let's move to item class. We also implemented items into the game as a class with different properties, each with a unique property named item ID, which allows our script to identify what the item is. Item class handles how the item spawns, actions it does, and how it's drawn to the board. Snake state class adds duration effects to the game. Duration effects in the game is achieved through the logical vector stored in the snake class, called states, which indicates the state of each effect. A state is triggered by a call to the switch on function here, which does an initial action, assign the time to the effect, and set the element in the state's property. A switch off is later called that does the opposite. Now here comes the core part of the game. The snake collision, item collision, frame collision, they are all implemented in map class. To check collision, simple. This can be easily done by comparing the snake's head's XY values in the snake class with every snake's body's XY values. Item collision, the same except just replace snake's body's XY value with the items in that item class. Graphics class, we won't introduce much about it, as it is a sequence of calling to MATLAB function, which are boring, we believe it is. Nevertheless, it initializes the figure for the game, draws the snake, and tells MATLAB to update the graphics object. From this project, we learned a lot about software development process. We started with no ideas, then we went through a period of brainstorming, and eventually set off to start to write some code. We encountered technical problems which stalled our process for days, and eventually we solved them by either researching and testing, asking our instructor, or querying our TA. Some big revisions are done when you suddenly realize that your direction is wrong, and this can be frustrating. For example, initially just a week after we finished brainstorming, we had the idea to implement the map as a m times n matrix and just place IDs at different locations to indicate different objects. For instance, a snake head could be a number 1 placed at the location 2, 3. We wrote a complete copy of map class using about a week, but then we realized it to be useless as that there would be no way for the snake to move without recording positions of each blocks of it. Then we went on with recording the positions of the snake, and it is after that we found the original map class useless, a week of work going into the Windows recycle bin. Overall, the process is fun. We work on it every weekend since mid-February, and we enjoy looking at our game growing up over time. In the end of March, 13 versions of the game were made. We are pleased to see the game here built on what we learned and created. We thank you very much for playing, and I hope you enjoy the game.